The quantum detection array at the edge of the Kuiper belt registered the anomaly at precisely 3:47 a.m. UTC. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the readings, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. The signal pattern was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. A ripple in space-time that suggested something massive was approaching, something that didn't belong in their corner of the galaxy. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed the readings. Whatever was coming their way wasn't trying to hide. The objects, dozens of them, were traveling at speeds that defied conventional physics, leaving gravitational echoes in their wake that lit up sensors like Christmas trees. They're not even attempting to mask their approach, Admiral James Rodriguez noted during the emergency UN Security Council meeting. The holographic displays showed the incoming fleet's trajectory, a straight line aimed directly at Earth. Either they don't care if we see them coming, or they want us to know they're here. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had long prepared for first contact, but not like this. Not with what appeared to be an armada capable of bending space itself to their will. Dr. Chen, now addressing the world's leading scientists via quantum-encrypted channels, pulled up the latest data. The energy signatures we're detecting suggest technology centuries beyond our current understanding. But there's something else. She highlighted a particular frequency pattern that pulsed through their readings. Their ships are generating quantum fields that interact with consciousness itself. This revelation sparked an idea in Dr. Aisha Patel, head of the Global Neuroscience Initiative. For decades, her team had been studying humanity's unique gift, the ability to form vast networks of shared consciousness through technology. What started as simple brain-computer interfaces had evolved into something far more profound: the capacity to link millions of minds into temporary collective intelligence networks. They may have advanced technology, Dr. Patel said, her eyes gleaming with possibility, but they've never encountered a species like us, a species that can think as one when needed, yet maintain perfect individuality. The next 3 months became the most unified period in human history. While governments maintained public calm through carefully crafted statements about potential extraterrestrial contact, humanity's best minds worked tirelessly behind the scenes. They weren't building weapons. They knew they couldn't match the aliens' technology. Instead, they were preparing something unprecedented. The Global Mind Initiative, as it came to be known, expanded existing neural network capabilities to encompass billions of human minds. Participation was voluntary, but as news of the approaching fleet leaked through various channels, volunteers flooded in. People understood instinctively that their very way of life might depend on this unified response. Dr. Chen's team made another crucial discovery during this preparation period. The aliens' quantum consciousness technology had a fundamental flaw. It was designed to interface with singular, hierarchical minds. The concept of a species capable of forming temporary collective consciousness while maintaining individual identity was apparently foreign to them. Admiral Rodriguez oversaw the integration of this knowledge into Earth's defense strategy. "We don't need to match their firepower," he explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "We just need to be ready to think in ways they can't predict or counter." As the alien fleet entered the solar system, humanity continued its silent preparations. Cities hummed with normal activity, militaries remained in their usual states of readiness, and satellites maintained their regular orbits. But beneath this ordinary facade, billions of human minds were being quietly linked into the most sophisticated neural network ever created. The first direct message from the approaching fleet arrived exactly as predicted. It was a simple declaration in multiple Earth languages. "We are the Concordat of aligned worlds. Your planet has been chosen for integration. Prepare to receive our representatives." What they couldn't know was that humanity had already prepared, just not in the way they expected. As their massive ships took up positions around Earth, they encountered no resistance, no panic, no chaos. Instead, they found something they had never seen in all their centuries of expansion: a species that appeared primitive on the surface, but harbored a power they couldn't begin to comprehend. Dr. Chen, standing at her console as the first alien ship began its descent through Earth's atmosphere, allowed herself a small smile. "They think they're making first contact," she murmured, "but they're actually about to meet humanity's entire collective consciousness at once." "We dare much more than suggest," Dr. Santos interrupted. "At this moment, human consciousness spans your entire fleet. We could disable your ships with a thought. Instead, we offer friendship and cooperation." The High Ambassador's response was cut short by urgent communications from his fleet. Somehow, human consciousness had indeed penetrated their most secure systems, not through technology, but through the very quantum fields the Concordat used to maintain their own collective. "What are you?" Xerxes whispered, encountering for the first time in his long existence something that exceeded his understanding. Dr. Santos smiled, her expression reflected on billions of human faces across the planet. "We are humanity, High Ambassador, and we are offering you a choice. Leave our world in peace, or stay and learn what true cooperation between minds can achieve." The reception hall fell silent as the Concordat ambassadors faced the first real challenge to their power in centuries. The next few moments would determine whether humanity had made a powerful ally or an implacable enemy, and through the neural network, every human on Earth held their breath, ready for either outcome. The Concordat's response came with the rising sun. Massive ships descended through the atmosphere, their crystalline structures darkened to absorbing black. High Ambassador Xerxes had made his choice. Humanity would be brought to heel, not through diplomacy, but through overwhelming force. Dr. Santos stood in the Global Defense Center, watching the tactical displays through both her eyes and the collective consciousness of humanity. "They're targeting our neural network nodes," she observed, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "Let them," Admiral Rodriguez replied, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Every real node was relocated underground weeks ago. They're attacking decoys." Through the neural network, billions of humans shared the experience of watching the Concordat's first strike. Crystalline energy beams lanced down from the ships, striking seemingly critical infrastructure across the globe. To an outside observer, Earth's defense capability should have been crippled. Instead, humanity's true power was about to be revealed. Dr. Chen's voice came through the network, her excitement palpable. "The attack patterns confirm our theory. Their tactical systems are fully integrated with their consciousness technology. They literally can't conceive of a strategy their collective mind hasn't approved." This was humanity's true advantage. While the Concordat had achieved perfect unity through genetic engineering and technological integration, they had sacrificed something precious: the ability to think beyond their established patterns. "Initiate Protocol Prometheus," Dr. Santos commanded, and through the neural network, humanity responded as one. Across the globe, millions of people closed their eyes, their minds joining in a way the Concordat couldn't comprehend. Unlike the aliens' rigid collective consciousness, humanity's network was fluid, adaptive, and most importantly, creative. Each human mind added its unique perspective, creating an ever-evolving strategy that no single intelligence could predict. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Concordat ships began experiencing unexplainable malfunctions. Their quantum consciousness fields, designed to maintain control over their technology, encountered what could only be described as cognitive chaos. Millions of human minds thinking in patterns that defied their fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. "Their ships run on thought," Dr. Paddle explained through the network. Her consciousness merged with thousands of other neuroscientists, but they never imagined encountering a species that could think in ways their systems couldn't process. High Ambassador Xerxes' voice boomed across global communications channels, a hint of desperation creeping into his usually controlled tone. "This resistance is futile. Your primitive understanding of consciousness cannot hope to match our perfected unity." Dr. Santos' response was transmitted not just through conventional channels, but through the very quantum fields the Concordat used to maintain their collective consciousness. "You mistake uniformity for unity. Ambassador. Allow us to demonstrate the difference. Through the neural network, humanity began to share not just thoughts, but dreams, hopes, fears, and imaginations. The quantum fields around Earth became saturated with a kind of consciousness the Concordat had never encountered, one that embraced chaos, creativity, and individual thought, while maintaining perfect cooperation. The effect on the Concordat ships was devastating. Systems designed to process only structured, hierarchical thought patterns began to fail. Ships that had conquered thousands of worlds found themselves unable to maintain their quantum cohesion in the face of humanity's cognitive symphony. Impossible. Sirkson's voice crackled through failing communication channels. Your consciousness, it's everywhere and nowhere. How can you maintain unity without conformity? Admiral Rodriguez watched as the tactical displays showed Concordat ships beginning to retreat from Earth's atmosphere. That's the question you should have asked before you attacked, he murmured. Human consciousness isn't a hierarchy, it's a dance. Through the neural network, Dr. Chen's team detected a fascinating phenomenon. Some of the younger Concordat crew members, those whose genetic engineering was less complete, were beginning to resonate with human thought patterns. Their rigid conditioning was cracking in the face of humanity's cognitive freedom. They're experiencing individual thought for the first time, Dr. Patel observed with wonder. Their collective consciousness is based on suppression of individuality. We're showing them another way is possible. As the Concordat fleet retreated to a higher orbit, humanity maintained its defensive posture. Through the neural network, billions of minds remained united yet individual, ready to repel another attack, but hoping for a different outcome. Dr. Santos sent one final message to the retreating ships. We're willing to share our understanding of consciousness with you, Ambassador. Not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals. The choice, as always, remains yours. The response that came back was not from Sirkson, but from a group of younger Concordat members whose minds had been transformed by contact with human consciousness. We request dialogue. There is much we need to understand. Through the neural network, humanity smiled as one. The tide hadn't just turned in a military sense. They had achieved something far more significant. They had shown an ancient civilization that true strength comes not from enforced unity, but from the harmony of diverse minds working together. The transformation of the Concordat began not with a bang, but with a question. In the 3 days since the failed attack on Earth, thousands of younger Concordat members had experienced something their genetic engineering should have made impossible: independent thought. Dr. Paddle stood before a holographic display showing neural patterns from both human and Concordat minds. It's like watching a frozen river begin to thaw, she explained to the assembled Earth leadership. Their rigid thought structures are becoming fluid, adapting to new possibilities. Through the neural network, humanity watched as the Concordat fleet split into 2 factions. The Old Guard, led by High Ambassador Sirkson, maintained orbit around Mars, their ships still radiating the cold, crystalline energy of their traditional consciousness technology. The younger faction, who called themselves the Awakened, positioned themselves closer to Earth, their ships' energy signatures already beginning to show traces of more chaotic, human-like patterns. We never expected this outcome, Dr. Chen admitted, her consciousness resonating through the network. We prepared for war, but instead, we've triggered a cultural revolution within their civilization. The Awakened had sent a representative to Earth, a young Concordat scientist named Lyra, whose crystalline form shifted through colors that had never been seen in their species before. Our entire civilization is built on the principle that unity requires uniformity, she explained, her translator field carrying not just words but emotions. But your species, you've shown us that true unity can emerge from diversity. Admiral Rodriguez, watching the tactical displays that showed the increasingly unstable situation in orbit, raised the crucial question. What happens when this understanding reaches the rest of the Concordat's 12,000 worlds? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Through the quantum communications channels that linked the Concordat's vast empire, the experience of the Awakened began to spread. Younger members of their species across hundreds of worlds started to question the rigid structures that had defined their civilization for millennia. "It's like a virus of consciousness," Dr. Santos observed, "but instead of destroying, it's creating something new." High Ambassador Xerxen's response was swift and desperate. His faction initiated a quantum lockdown, attempting to isolate the affected worlds from their network. But they had fatally misunderstood the nature of the change taking place. Just as water finds its way through any crack, the new consciousness patterns spread through pathways the old guard hadn't even known existed. Lyra, her crystalline form now pulsing with colors that matched human neural patterns, revealed the full scope of what was happening. Our species engineered itself for perfect unity, believing it was the pinnacle of evolution. But in doing so, we became static, unable to grow or adapt. Your humanity showed us what we lost: the power of individual perspectives combining into true collective wisdom. Through Earth's neural network, humanity watched and supported the transformation. They didn't interfere directly. They didn't need to. They had already demonstrated a truth that couldn't be unlearned: that the strongest unity comes from the free association of diverse minds. The crisis point came when Xerxen's faction attempted to use their consciousness technology to force the awakened back into compliance. But their weapons, designed to impose uniformity, proved useless against minds that had learned to think in human patterns. "You cannot force us back into mental slavery," Lyra broadcast to the old guard ships. "We have experienced true consciousness, true unity. We will not return to the prison of enforced conformity." The battle that followed was unlike anything in human or Concordat history. It wasn't fought with weapons, but with consciousness itself. The old guard's rigid patterns clashed with the new fluid consciousness of the awakened, supported by the vast, creative power of humanity's neural network. Dr. Chen's monitoring stations recorded the event in all its complexity. "They're not just fighting," she reported through the network. "They're evolving. Each clash creates new patterns of thought, new possibilities for consciousness itself." The moment of resolution came not through victory or defeat, but through understanding. Even the most hardened members of the old guard couldn't maintain their rigid patterns when exposed to the full spectrum of consciousness that humanity and the awakened had achieved together. Xerxen himself, his crystalline form shifting through colors never before seen in his species, finally surrendered not to force, but to truth. "We thought we had reached perfection," he admitted, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "But perfection, we now understand, is not an end state. It is the ability to constantly grow, to learn, to change." As the crisis subsided, humanity and the transformed Concordat faced a new challenge: how to rebuild an interstellar civilization based not on enforced unity, but on the strength of diverse minds working in harmony. The answer, they would discover, lay in the very chaos they had once feared: the endless dance of individual consciousness coming together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. 1 year after humanity's first contact with the Concordat, the Sol system hosted an unprecedented gathering. Ships from across 12,000 worlds converged around Earth's orbit, their crystalline structures now displaying an infinite variety of patterns and colors, a visual representation of their newfound diversity of thought. In the newly constructed Unity Hall in Geneva, Dr. Santos stood before representatives of both humanity and the transformed Concordat. Through Earth's neural network, billions of humans shared this historic moment, their collective consciousness, a symphony of individual thoughts and emotions. "We gather here not to celebrate victory," she began, her words carried through both conventional translations and consciousness fields, "but to mark the beginning of something unprecedented in galactic history." The hall itself was a testament to the changes of the past year. Crystalline architecture merged seamlessly with human design, creating spaces that encourage both individual contemplation and collective communion. The walls pulsed with quantum fields that allowed all present to share thoughts and emotions while maintaining their distinct identities. Lyra, now the lead representative of the transformed Concordat, stood beside Dr. Santos. Her crystalline form had evolved far beyond the rigid structures of the old empire, flowing with colors that reflected the complex interplay of individual and collective consciousness. Our civilization spent millennia pursuing perfect unity. Lyra addressed the gathering, her consciousness resonating with both human and concordat patterns. We engineered our bodies, our minds, our very consciousness to eliminate chaos and enforce order. But humanity showed us that we had built not a utopia, but a prison. Through the neural network, Dr. Chen shared real-time data showing the extraordinary changes in concordat consciousness patterns across their 1,000 worlds. The transformation continues to spread, she reported. Each world, each individual is finding their own path to balance between unity and individuality. The real first contact was about to begin, and it would change the galaxy forever. The Concordat's embassy ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a shard of crystal, refracting sunlight in impossible patterns. As it settled onto the designated landing zone outside Geneva, the assembled human delegation maintained perfect composure. They had been chosen not just for their diplomatic skills, but for their ability to maintain individual thought while connected to the global consciousness network. High Ambassador Xerxon emerged from the ship, his crystalline exoskeleton shifting colors with each movement. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, he was an imposing figure, designed by centuries of genetic engineering to embody the Concordat's power. Behind him, a delegation of lesser ambassadors followed, each bearing the marks of their specific genetic optimizations. "We welcome you to Earth." Dr. Maya Santos, Earth's chosen spokesperson, stepped forward. Her neural implant hummed quietly, connecting her to billions of human minds while maintaining her individual consciousness. The sensation was like standing in an infinite library where every book was being read simultaneously. Xerxon's translator field shimmed as he spoke. "Your welcome is acknowledged, though unnecessary. We have come to elevate your species into the Concordat. Resistance would be." He paused, his crystalline features shifting to what might have been amusement, inadvisable. Dr. Santos felt the collective reaction of humanity flow through her mind, not fear, but a calm determination. "Perhaps," she replied, "we should discuss the terms of this elevation over a meal. We have prepared a reception that showcases human culture." The High Ambassador's features shifted to purple, confusion. Dr. Chen's xenobiology team supplied through the network. This wasn't the response they typically received. Usually, species either immediately submitted or futilely attempted resistance. Inside the Geneva Peace Palace, the reception proceeded with calculated precision. Every piece of art, every musical selection, every dish served was chosen to convey humanity's unique nature. Through the neural network, billions of humans contributed their knowledge, their creativity, their understanding to each moment of the interaction. "Your species is peculiar," Xerxon noted, studying a holographic display of human history. "You advance chaotically, without proper direction. Yet you achieve results that should be impossible at your development stage." Dr. Santos smiled. "We find strength in our diversity, High Ambassador. Each human brings unique perspectives, ideas, and solutions." "Inefficient," one of the lesser ambassadors interjected. "Genetic optimization and unified direction produce superior results. Our civilization has proved this across 12,000 star systems." Through the neural network, Dr. Chen's team was analyzing every word, every gesture, every shift in the ambassador's crystalline forms. They were discovering patterns, weaknesses in the Concordat's supposedly perfect civilization. "Tell me," Xerxon suddenly demanded, "why do our quantum sensors detect such unusual consciousness patterns from your species?" "There are echoes we cannot explain." The moment they had prepared for had arrived. Dr. Santos felt the collective consciousness of humanity align behind her words. Perhaps a demonstration would be more effective than an explanation. With a subtle gesture, she activated the quantum resonance field they had prepared. The Concordat ambassadors froze as their consciousness-affecting technology encountered something they had never experienced before. a unified yet infinitely diverse human neural network. Impossible. Sirkson stumbled back, his crystalline form flickering between colors rapidly. Your minds. They're connected, yet individual. This defies all known laws of consciousness integration. Through the neural network, humanity spoke as one through Dr. Santos. We are not what you expected, High Ambassador. We are not a primitive species awaiting elevation. We are humanity. Billions of individual minds capable of perfect unity while maintaining our unique identities. The lesser ambassadors were visibly disturbed, their forms shifting through colors that indicated extreme distress. Their consciousness affecting technology, designed to suppress and control individual minds, was useless against humanity's neural network. You should understand. Dr. Santos continued, her voice carrying the weight of billions, that we have no interest in being elevated into your concordat. However, we are very interested in discussing a mutual exchange of knowledge and culture. As equals. Sirkson's form had stabilized into a deep blue, a color that Dr. Chen's team interpreted as profound shock. Equals. You dare to suggest. The most remarkable changes had occurred in the youngest generation of the concordat. Free from the rigid genetic engineering of their ancestors, they were developing naturally, their crystalline forms responding to their thoughts and emotions in ways never before seen in their species. Admiral Rodriguez, who had prepared for war but found transformation instead, presented the strategic implications. The old power structures of the concordat are dissolving, he explained. In their place, we're seeing the emergence of organic networks of cooperation, similar to humanity's neural networks, but adapted to their own nature. But it was High Ambassador Sirkson's testimony that truly marked the depth of change. His once imposing form, designed to embody the concordat's power, had transformed into something more subtle and complex. I stood before humanity believing we were their superiors, he admitted. Now I understand that true superiority lies not in enforcing order, but in embracing the creative chaos of consciousness itself. The gathering marked the ratification of a new galactic covenant, not an empire of enforced unity, but a federation of diverse minds and cultures. Through it, humanity's neural network began to interface with the transformed consciousness technology of the concordat, creating something entirely new, a galactic consciousness that preserved and celebrated individual identity. Dr. Patel's team had discovered something extraordinary during their research over the past year. The universe itself, she explained to the assembled representatives, appears to operate on principles similar to consciousness. Quantum fields, probability waves, the very fabric of space-time, all suggest that reality itself emerges from the interaction of infinite possibilities. This understanding formed the foundation of the new federation. Each world, each species, each individual would remain distinct, their unique perspectives and abilities contributing to a greater whole without being subsumed by it. The rigid hierarchy of the old concordat gave way to organic networks of cooperation and exchange. As the gathering concluded, Dr. Santos and Lyra initiated a joint consciousness link, sharing with all present a vision of the future they were creating. Through the combined neural networks of humanity and the transformed concordat, participants experienced not just thoughts and ideas, but possibilities, infinite variations of what their civilizations could become together. We stand at a threshold, Dr. Santos declared, her consciousness resonating with billions across the galaxy. Not the end of our journey, but the beginning of a greater adventure. We have learned that true strength lies not in eliminating differences, but in finding ways to bring them into harmony. The response came not as words, but as a symphony of consciousness, human minds, and transformed concordat awareness, flowing together in patterns that created new forms of thought, new possibilities for existence itself. The galaxy was awakening to a new age, one where the greatest power came not from control, but from the infinite dance of diverse minds, thinking, dreaming, and growing together. As the ships departed Earth's orbit, carrying the new understanding to distant worlds, Humanity and their former would-be conquerors shared a profound recognition. They had not just prevented a war or transformed an empire. They had discovered a fundamental truth about consciousness itself, that the universe's greatest strength lies in its endless capacity for diversity, creativity, and change. The stars above Earth seemed brighter that night, as if reflecting the new awareness that flowed between worlds. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, not through force of arms, but through the power of their minds and the strength of their diversity. In doing so, they had not just saved themselves, they had helped create something greater than either humanity or the conquered had imagined possible. A future where unity and diversity danced together in endless, beautiful complexity.